This is Chav Cheshvan. It's page 298. Kuf Mem Tes Amid Beis. Now, we are learning about halachas, and mitzvahs ma'asos. And what the Alter Rebbe is saying about halachas and about mitzvahs ma'asos is that they're the most important parts of Torah. He brought rayos. Saibin get halachas, Saibin get the mitzvahs ma'asos. Why? So he went into a whole inyan about something called Tainug Helyon. The Eibishter wants to give us Ein Sof. And as I explained it to you, we mean Taket Save of Kalam and not Mamal Kalam. And we're not Kalim for it. Because if we would get a Gil of Save of Kalam, it would destroy us, we wouldn't get it at all. So the only way to give it to us is to create a Lavush from Save of Kalam in itself. The Sof of Save of Kalam creates a Lavush which we're able to hold. And this is called Ratzon. And in the Ratzon you have the Tainug. Now you may not feel the Tainug, but nevertheless, by the Eibishter packaging his Tainug and Ratzon, he's finding a way to deliver to us Tainug Ha'elyon, Noyem Hashem, Tzachos, Alman de Chesufin, the different Lashenas that he brings. In other words, it's not a Sefer Kalalman, in a way that we're able to receive it. Now, I think that the Alter Rebbe doesn't think that it's experienced now by Gili. It'll be experienced lost at love by Gili, but now we're getting it, right? Through Ratzon. And the Alter Rebbe is of course going to explain, now so Ratzon is higher than Chochmah, it's higher than Torah, and it's going to come down into the lowest madrigas. Alter Rebbe is going to explain that this is halachas and this is mitzvahs ma'asos. That's the whole point. Halachas and mitzvahs ma'asos have the highest shadish and they come down to the lowest madrigas. Now, v'hinei, Ratzon Ha'elyon Baruch Hu. This will, this Ratzon that we are describing, which is the so-called lavush that the Eibishter employs, Kuf Mem Tes Amid Beis, in order to communicate, to give us a Seif of Kalam, Mechuna v'nikra is nicknamed and referred b'fichach ma'yemes in the name in the words of the Mekubalim b'shem Keser Elyon as the higher Keser, supernal Keser. Ubay, and in Keser Elyon there's tarach amudayed b'choli 620 pillars of light. Keser is the same basis as tarach. So in Keser you have tarach amudayed 620 pillars of light. Now, Pirush. What is the significance of Amud Eir? Here's the latest. For example, if you have beams in a very, very big Beis Chayma. Beis Chayma means a mansion, a fancy house. That an Itzav Ba'aras, they stand on the ground. And their top, their head, is attached to the roof. And what does the beam do? It does two things. It keeps the ceiling and the floor together. And you know what else it does? It keeps the ceiling and the floor apart. Right? It holds them together, it doesn't let them amudim. But in the mashal, these amudim are cholol, they're hollow. In the nimshal, it would be a bad idea to have a hollow beam. But in the nimshal, the hollowness of the beam is very, very important. The same is true also in the nimshal. We talk about keser. On the one hand, it's higher even than the level of chachma. It goes till the roof. It's called kesef from the word kaiseres, that means it surrounds. It crowns and hovers above the intelligence in one's head, which is the madrega of Chabad. So the source of Ratzon is higher than Chochmah. Of course, you understand why the Alter Rebbe continuously refers to Chabad, because Chabad is Torah. And this keser, this Ratzon, its shadish is higher than Torah. On the other hand, the Ratzon and this will, Nislabish, is manifest, Betayag, mitzvahs Torah. V'zayim, mitzvahs D'Rabbanan, and the 613 practical mitzvahs of the Torah. And the 7 mitzvahs D'Rabbanan, where the emphasis is on the lowest level, mamish, the idea of action. And he explains. Sharubam kikulam, they're in the vast majority, hein mitzvahs ma'asos, they're mitzvahs that have to do with behavior, action. V'gam matluy is b'dibur, even those few mitzvahs that have to do with speech. So most mitzvahs are behavioral, and even those mitzvahs have to do with speech. Hakaimal on the halacha is, Alter Rebbe mentions it in Tanya Perek Lamed Zayin, the akima sefos of have a ma'aseh, that moving your lips is called an action. Alter Rebbe calls over there ma'aseh zut. So rubam kekulam of the mitzvahs are either b'ma'aseh or b'dibur. V'gam, moreover, there are a handful hatloyes b'machshavei b'lev, which have to do with thought in the heart. Says the Alter Rebbe, you're right. There are a handful of mitzvahs that have to do with machshavei b'lev, but there's something else. The machshav of a lev of who? Of a physical person. You're physical. So maybe by you it's machshav of a lev, but it's machshav of a physical person. Shebeil mazeh dafka, that's dafka in this world. Why? Shehu ba'al b'chira, because only in this world is there free will. Lahates lavavi l'tei v'chuli, to lean your heart towards good and so forth. Mashein kein neshama b'lei guf, as opposed to the neshama b'lei guf, ein tzarech tzavei that cannot be commanded, and there's no inyan of mitzvahs of machshav of a lev. So the bottom line is that the Ratzin is higher than Chachma, and it comes down to the lowest madrege, dafka to asiyah. The Nimtzah turns out as follows: Sheha mitzvahs, that the mitzvahs in aderech mashal, they are in fact like the mashal we gave, kimei ha'amudim, like these pillars. The taka nitzav mirom ha'mailes, they begin on the highest of levels, hu Ratzin Elyon Baruch Hu, which is the will of the Rebbeinu. But they extend down ad ha'oretz alazu ha'chumris, to the most base level of this earth. V'hei now derech mashal, on the Yerba way of analogy, k'mei ha'amudim chalulim, like hollow pillars, shemakif and malbishin, that wrap and become a garment. For nishmas ha'adam eruchayei nafshay, the neshama and the ruach and the nefesh of the yid, kishem mekayim ha'mitzvahs, who does the mitzvah physically. So the diuk is, this Ratzin, which is what mitzvahs are, is higher than Teirah, it's higher than Chochmah, and it's take the acharain of the Tainug Elyon of Sevav Kalaman, but it carries that Sevav Kalaman, and where does it manifest? In a yid doing physical mitzvahs and here in this world, and therefore through doing the physical mitzvahs, you are now milubash, wrapped in the Ratzin and the Tainug Elaki, which the Ratzin is a keli for. You do the mitzvahs. And through these pillars, the person's neshama ascends to the greatest heights, to be bound up, in the bundle, in the package of life, which is the infinite elokus. Pirush just means that a yid down here who does mitzvahs is bundled and wrapped. The light of Keser, which is, like I told you earlier, inyan dafke von Seviv Kalam, Hu Ratzin Elyon Baruch Hu, which is the will of the Eibush, blessed be He, and inside that Ratzin there is Tainug. And through this levush, Yuchlu Lachazes B'nei Yemad Hashem, you could see the pleasantness of the Eibush, Vitzachtachos, and the Einig, and the Simoin, and the satisfaction of the Simoin, Shalamayla Mimalas HaKeser, which is even higher than the level of Ratzin itself. The Tainug is the pnimius of this Keser. So we talked about the Ratzin. The pnimius of Ratzin is Tainug. And when you do a mitzvah maisis, you are now surrounded by this Ratzin, and through this you have the infinite Tainug. Now the Rebbe is saying Lachazis, because you'll be blow up. You need to have a lavush. Tainug is Ein Sof. Tainug is Sevav Kalam. You can't have it. The only way to have it is to have a lavush that's made of the stuff of Sevav Kalaman. And that's Ratzin. And the Alter Rebbe said earlier that it's going to the tzaddikim blessed love. In other words, here he says lachazes, you could see it, but l'cheina the one is lachazes means you can have access to it. You'll see it lost at love. But this is the only way Sevav Kalama could be by you is through a lavush, which is a kli for Sevav Kalama, and that lavush is the Ratz. Parenthesis. So according to what we just said, the mitzvahs are Ratzin, which are chitzonius shebe elyon, right? And inside the Ratzin, there's Pnimius, which is Tainug. And Torah is lower than both. Chochmah is lower side than the Ratzin, and for sure than the Einig. I'm sorry? The mitzvah, we see, now you're using Samach Vav language, so make believe we forgot some of them. Mitzvahs are the Chitzenius and Tainug, they're the Ratzin. They're the Chitzenius of the Ein Sof. Yes, within the Ratzin itself, that's Pnimius Ratzin, but that's a different discussion. Parenthesis, Vagam, Shenis Bible Mokabach, though we explain in other places, Sham Mitzvah saying Pnimius Ratzin Elyon Baruch Hu Rebbe Shaya. It's the inner will of the Rebbe. So the Rebbe says, it's known in Kabbalah that there's ribuy bechinos madreges, many different categories and steps. Sheyesh, that exists b'chol bechino madreg, in every single category and step, mi madreges hakedusha, in the levels of holiness. Kama bechinos ponim leponim, v'kama bechinos acharayim lacharayim, leinket v'chol. There's many madreges of pnimius and many madreges of acharayim. So in the world of Ratzin, this is like a pnimius Ratzin, but lagabe tainug it's acharayim. That's all. That's test to your kasha. Which is, of course, when you learn the Psalm above, a major issue, because you may remember, we talk about Pnimius Haratzin and Pnimius Hataynu, you say both of them are one in the Atmos of the Neshama. So, okay, listen, it's homework. Behine. Now the Rebbe has noch a kvetch, and the Cheder is mamish like a Dover Tzedodi. We're saying Terach Amud Yair. but there's only 613 mitzvahs, so you have to include the 7 mitzvahs that Rabbanan. Says the Rebbe, Zayim mitzvahs Rabbanan. I want to make something clear that the 7 mitzvahs that Rabbanan should not be counted as mitzvahs themselves. Because it says like Allah, you're not allowed to add. They extend and they're drawn mitzvahs atayra from the mitzvahs of the Torah. Uklula is behen b'mitzvahs tayag, b'mitzvah tayag, and they're included in them in the number 613. Lahalbish, to be a garment for tayag b'chinas kechas shabbat adam, for the 613 faculties and aspects in a person's neshama. Now this is weird, because we're talking about keser and saying tarach amudayir, but he says don't think tarach amudayir means tarach mitzvahs. That would be like tesif. This tayag mitzvahs. And the Zayim mitzvahs Rabbanan are expressions of Tayag mitzvahs. Everybody should be Tayag Amudayeh. What's Tarach? You follow what I'm saying? I don't have a proper teretz to this kasha. I just want to share with you a sicha, a modern kavod from the Rebbe. It's a long arichas. It's a built-in mugadik sicha. It's printed in the Sefer Yei Malchus. Everybody knows, says the Rebbe, that the Rambam was a modern Mesuder. And one of the aspects of the Rambam Seder was that he gives everything a mispur. He gives everything on mitzvah. He gives numbers. Like Yilku Zorim, there's Reish Zayin Malchus, there's Lamed Vav Krisis. He always gives numbers. Based on the Shivim, Treifis, and so forth. With one exception. When it comes to the Shav Mitzvahs, the Rabbanan, in the Akdam of the Rambam, he refuses to write the number 7. He says there are mitzvahs the Rabbanan, like Eirevin, like Tesidayim, V'halal, and V'cholu. And he doesn't want to say the number 7. So the Rebbe asks the kasha, the Rambam is so meduyek with misparim. Why doesn't he say 7? So the Rebbe answers that the Rambam cannot say 7, because mitzvahs that Rabbanan by definition can't be fixed to a number. We say 7, but the inyan of the 7 mitzvahs Rabbanan is not 7. It's bligvul. So the Rambam Dafka doesn't put a mispah to it because the Yossi says you can't put a mispah to it, and of course this also includes the aspect that it's right. So you can't say a number. So I want to make a proposal. A pikabod is tarach amudayir, which means that the 7 mitzvahs are Rabbanan. And the Rebbe says, but listen, you can't say 7 mitzvahs are Rabbanan because then you're saying like Teisif. So why tarach amudayir? So I'm going to make a proposal. The proposal is that the 7 oiris that are representing 7 mitzvahs that Rabbanan are not 7 mitzvahs. The 7 categories of gilui, which are the shayrish of the bligvul possibilities that the Rabbanan could add from each one of those 7 pillars. So the 7 mitzvahs themselves, says the Rambam, are not those 7 edis. 7 mitzvahs themselves are part of the tayag. Aydis, tarach edis. Those 7 edis are not those 7 mitzvahs. Those 7 edis are 7 inyonim that are me'eda da aruchom eretz mida the rechavim inyam of Teresh Balpeh. It's a b'derech efshe de kipshat in the Tanya. But okay, take it or leave it. Okay, genug. Yes, at kan chof cheshvan.